Hey there, high rollers. Jenn Bruno Smith here. I have a very special guest today. My special guest is my husband, Randy. He's going to be coming on to several podcasts with me here, and we are going to be chatting about the business and how we got to where we are. And I feel like I need to give him a really good bio because
let's get this started. Let me just kick back a little bit.
You can just relax.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll chill for a minute.
Dr. Smith graduated with a doctor of physical therapy in May of 2009. No, 2008.
2008, yeah.
From St. Francis. And he is he's an incredibly talented clinician, but in 2019, I finally convinced him to leave his day job and join the businesses. And it was a transition.
Yeah, quite a transition.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that a little bit today too, like the transition that we had moving from your full-time job to working for the businesses and stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing a lot of looking at each other very close today.
I know, shit. So I had no idea what we were going to be doing today. She said, hey, can I, after we drop the kids and everything, can you just come into the office, let me talk to you for a little bit? And next thing I know, she's hitting record and we're going to podcast. So
and here we are.
Here we go.
You're going to be on more podcasts with me. There's no reason for you not to be. You are such an integral part of this business. You do all the things, but behind the scenes that people, probably have questions about and don't know, or even things that they need to be doing. And so that's why it's so important that you're here.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
How far back should we take this?
Oh my gosh.
How far back
I think that
it's nice having you so close to me.
It's nice having you close to me. So, I mean, we have a pretty unique origin story, I think, and just, how we've kind of matriculated from both being in clinical roles, both going through our undergrad, graduates, going out in the workforce, working for other people, experiencing that, starting businesses, failing in starting some businesses, and, creating a life together, and the challenges of what have led us here today. And I think a lot of people who are in their journey might identify with some of the pieces and the challenges that we both have kind of come through to get to where we are today.
And, I think a lot of people, I like to be very clear when I'm talking to people who, about joining the mastermind. When I'm talking to people, I'm very clear that our studio is what supports our family. It's what pays our bills. It's a working studio. I'm not just a figurehead. That I like to be clear about that because people, there's so many educators out there that are just on the speaking circuit and, talking and don't actually shoot still. So, but Randy is who makes the studio run. He is doing all the background stuff. So if you're catching this live, because we're for the people listening on the podcast, we're actually streaming this into the Facebook. Oh, by the way, guys, before I forget, I officially started an email for this podcast. So it is thrcpodcast@gmail.com. And I will post that that way, in case you decide that you want to email us some questions, we can talk about it on our lives. We can talk about it on the podcast.
Awesome.
Because I know there's a lot of people that might be listening to this podcast that aren't in the Facebook group. So thrcpodcast@gmail.com, the High Rollers Club podcast.com, in case you didn't catch it.
Thank you for explaining that.
I know I did totally mansplain that. So where do we go from here? Do we talk about how we met? Or do we go that far back, or do we just start at when the business started? How far back are we taking this?
It just kind of depends. So I don't know if people want to know that. If they do, I mean, it was actually kind of a cool story. So Jenn was out on a date with one of
She was not out on a date.
She will dispute this. I will tell you how it is.
Into him. Wasn't super into him.
One of my former bosses used to say, if you're explaining, you're losing. And I've always kind of carried that. And as much as I hated that statement, I've realized how true that statement is over time. So anyways, Jenn was out on a date with one of my best friends, and we went to the Outback Steakhouse in Altoona, where we met for the very first time.
In the parking lot.
And I was just blown away the first time I laid eyes on Jenn. I thought, oh my goodness, she's hot. but she had such an attitude of like just coming back from Puerto Rico. And, you know, I was like, I'm kind of intrigued. And
by how jerky I was.
So long story short, you know, she came to a party that night with my friend and ended up, you know, we ended up talking in my Jeep all night long under the stars.
Actually talking, guys. Get your head out of it. Actually talking all night long. And we, you know, we just kind of hit it off that first night. We couldn't stop seeing each other, even though I was living in Ocean City, Maryland at the time for the summer. And you've been stuck with me ever since.
I've been stuck.
Can't get rid of me.
I've been here ever since.
Can't get rid of me. And that was 22 years ago.
Yeah, it was 22 years ago. And what was really cool is, you know, we not only went to undergrad with each other while Jenn was getting a liberal arts degree in basically anything and everything that wasn't going to get her a job.
That's true. That is an accurate statement. And how much money did I spend on that? $40,000?
About 40K
for a nice piece of paper.
And I was getting
Spanish.
You had a concentration Spanish.
I have like a nice Spanish background. Like when we were in Barcelona, I was able to.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was amazing.
Like I had a full conversation with the cab driver.
Yeah.
For like 40 minutes.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so
were you impressed with me that day?
I'm impressed with you every day.
I totally like led you right into that.
Yes, you did. Absolutely. Yeah. I saw what you did there.
Yeah.
So we, you know, we grew organically from, you know, you think about where you're at in different parts of your life, right? Back then it was, okay, I'm going to graduate with a business degree. I want to be in business finance. I want to be a stockbroker and everything.
You're talking about you.
Both of us.
Oh,
so
both of us.
You wanted to go on to grad school to be a clinical,
school psychologist.
School psychologist. Yeah.
Right.
And how'd that work out for you? So
this was probably one of the most disappointing like moments of my life. Yeah. I was very disappointed. I didn't know what I would do with myself. And so anyway, I applied for school psychology as grad program and I didn't get in. I was on the waiting list and I never got in, spoiler alert. And honestly though, if I would have gotten into that program, I don't think I would be where I was now. Every single disappointment, every single failure led me to the point where I am now. And that's why I was having this conversation at AIBP. So I went to this awesome conference last week, Association of International Boudoir Photographers. Shout out to Sean and Michelle Black because they put on a fucking kick-ass conference. It was so well planned. It was so just every detail was perfect. They did such a good job. I was so impressed. So if you know Sean, or if you've never heard of AIBP, post in the comments and I can link you. But AIBP has basically been like my home base since I started. I started in 2016 and it's just this very tight-knit group. It's really an amazing thing. But anyway, why did I start talking about that?
I don't know. You kind of got off.
I know. I went on.
But I asked about, so you applied to grad school and you got denied for school psychology. Right. And what did that do for you? How did you kind of pivot off of that?
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do. Right. Like I had no idea. And I was like, I need to get my shit together. I got to make a choice here. Like, cause what are you going to do with a psychology and Spanish degree? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. There's no job you can get. So I ended up, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go back to school and do the prereqs for speech pathology. And at that point, it wasn't like I was super into it. Yeah. I was like, all right, this is something like that I could do that could get me a job that I would start to earn money. And I did a full year of prereqs and I got all A's and I applied to grad school at IUP in Penn State. I got into both. Yeah. And Nova Southeastern. I got into that school. And I chose IUP because I did not have to write a thesis. So
I remember that.
Yep, that was why I chose. And so then I went to grad school and it, that has kind of led me on this path. And I think what I was going for was like what I was saying was I met someone at the conference and she was like, I'm so scared to fail. I don't want to fail. And I was like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? She's like, I fail. I was like, yeah, that's the worst thing that would happen is you fail, you pick it up and you try it again. But my point to that is saying is like, through failure comes growth and through failure comes change. And if you never give yourself that opportunity to fail, you might never experience the growth that accompanies with it. So
I agree. I think failure is and I've learned this, right, through failing myself. Failure is just a necessary part of the process. It's necessary reps, because failure is one of the greatest teachers we have. Failure provides you with immediate feedback. And as long as you're not gauging your progress versus somebody else's progress, if you're just trying to get a little bit better every single day based on what you do and staying in your lane, take failure as an opportunity to grow instead of this thing that will spiral you out of control. And that's really what separates people who are successful from people who will eventually fold, especially in business. And we've failed several times with different ventures. And
luckily, the one thing that stays consistent is our relationship.
Yeah.
So that has given us like both the opportunity to fail and know that like we have this soft place to land, which is super important.
I think one of the most unique things about our relationship is our ability to have each other's back. And what I mean by that is when Jenn was applying to grad schools for school psychology, I got out. I worked as a registered investment advisor, fully licensed broker, did stocks, bonds, and annuities, mutual funds, insurance, all that type of thing. And I worked while Jenn was finding her path. And then that path for me in my career was really, really tough. Being a 20-some-year-old, nobody wanted to take retirement advice from 20-year-olds. So I had decided to move on. I sold software for a little while, but eventually it led me to go to grad school. And Jenn was kind of completing the process of being a speech therapist then. And Jenn worked all through my grad school. So we've always had each other's back to allow the other person to grow. And, sometimes that's simultaneous growth. And, it's challenging to figure out schedules and, everything else. But I think we do a really good job of having each other's back. And we always have when it comes to recognizing that the other person is primed to grow both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And so, I guess that's like a little synopsis of where we started. And then what did you think? Okay, so let's talk about
hot seat now.
You're in the hot seat.
Okay.
So my first camera, Randy actually bought it for me, but let's talk about like why you bought me that camera.
So I got my doctorate in physical therapy.
This was in 2009, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. This was Black Friday of 2009.
So my kind of sell to going back to grad school myself and going into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt was that, I wanted to be a leader in outpatient operations. I was going to do whatever it took to climb the ladder.
The corporate ladder.
I really wanted to be in charge of a lot of clinics, a lot of people. I wanted to be a leader. And I was doing that, but I was working a shit ton of hours. I was literally sleeping at clinics. I would document till I would fall asleep when I came home, just tirelessly putting in the reps necessary to get ahead. And that was starting to, wear on us a bit, to the point where I wasn't having a lot of joy because I was doing those necessary grindy things. And, at one point, Jenn's like, I need a hobby. I need to do something. Like, she was literally like bored. And I thought, okay, well, I'll get her a camera and she can have this cute little photography business on the side, shooting newborns.
Cute little photography business.
Yeah, literally, this is what I thought. Like, just full honesty, this is what I thought. And I was like, okay, like, I won't feel so bad if little hobby. She is doing this little hobby.
Get the wifey something to do.
I'm like, working towards this big corporate goal and things like that. And that was literally my mindset. But also, I want her to be happy and fulfilled and all those things. So that's kind of how it started, with getting you a camera. And you had a desire for it.
And I do. And so my dad was a photographer. Most of you guys know this, but like, and also I have like this habit of becoming a little like spectrumy about things.
No, hold on. What were you in, if things fill the space, right? We're all containers and things fill the space. So prior to you having a camera and kind of starting in photography, what took up that space? What were you doing?
Well, I mean, Shut up.
She knows exactly what I'm going for.
I know exactly what he's getting towards here. All right. So I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in the day, there were like, this was on Facebook. It was a Facebook game. And you could like plant crops and grow them. And like you had I had a little restaurant. Like this is all like, a game, right? Virtual kitchen, and you would like cook your food. And then like 10 hours later, it would come out of the oven and you would like harvest it or whatever. And so this was what I did, like while he was working 12-hour days, because I was working in the school. So I was done at 4. We didn't have kids then.
Go home and cook your virtual.
I went home, and instead of cooking real food, I was cooking virtual food. And so this is what I was doing to keep myself busy. And Randy was like, you really need like something like more productive than cooking virtual food.
I remember literally
very sad as I'm saying.
On weekends, we would be out somewhere and you would be like, I have to get home because I need to like,
right.
Take my stuff off the stove.
Which sounds funny now, but like smartphones weren't really
I know you actually had to. Yeah, you actually like had to do it from
go
the computer
home, right?
Or something, and like
be were around, but like we were very poor.
Yeah,
so
we weren't like rocking.
No, and we were
iPhones,
poor.
Like the BlackBerry was just like a dream.
We had a BlackBerry. I had a BlackBerry then. But anyway, yeah. So you had to actually like physically go home, cook your virtual food, and then like
which you were great at.
I was the best.
You're the best.
I'm the best at everything I do. Right. Yeah. So anyway, I get on these tangents sometimes where like I get a little like I would say obsessive about certain things, and so when he got me a camera, my obsession turned into photography instead of cooking virtual food, and which was probably a little bit of a healthier obsession, but and I do say that I've talked to so many entrepreneurs and really successful ones. And what I've found is that everyone who's super successful has some level of obsession with it. Yeah. Like you have to be relentless and what word am I thinking of? Stop it. No, like persistent. Come on. Jeez. You have to be persistent with it. It's ridiculous. I can see like the little husband wheels turning in there. It's like, oh my gosh. You have to be persistent with it. And so that's what I was. And when I started, I was fucking terrible. Yeah. I was terrible. Think about like selective color, major contrast. There were some pictures where like the people looked like they were dead. Yeah. No, but I never did shoot and burn. Remember, I went right to IPS. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I did it. Yeah. And I remember the very first family client I did, or it was, I don't know, maybe like a year into it, I charged like $300 for an 11x14 canvas. And the shoot was all right. I mean, it wasn't great, but they paid it. And I was like, oh shit, this is the way to go. Like, I was like, this is what can get us to where we need to go. And that was like where my journey started with, sorry, I think I got to sneeze.
It's okay. So talk to me a little bit about, because, it kind of grew from like, okay, Jen's not going to do virtual food anymore. It was great. So actually something that provided value to our family.
Okay, so listen, there's like 50% of the listeners right now are thinking, I know exactly what she's talking about. The other 50% are probably too young and have no idea what we're talking. And maybe like half of those people will go and Google it and then they're going to laugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of funny, but
it's funny now. Yeah.
As that business progressed, as you got more into newborns and the newborn sets and collections grew and you were doing more family stuff, right? It really became, okay, we've got a little bit of beer money for the weekend, or we can go to
beer money for you. Not for me. I don't drink. I love like beer money.
You can put beer money in quotes. You can, whatever you want to put it, whatever. So it kind of became this where it was just like a little bit extra cash. Maybe we could go to a movie or something. By the way, this is pre-kids, right?
Yeah,
so we actually had time to hang out.
We had a dog.
Yeah, we had a dog.
Coco.
So it kind of became this thing where we had just a little bit of extra beer money. And then, we realized that we were maybe paying like a house bill or something, and kind of started to see some traction out of that. But then we
so like a lot of
life happened in the middle of that, and
moved into this house, built this house. We built this house.
But what happened while we were building this house?
I was pregnant. Yeah, I was pregnant. I was a hot mess. I remember when we were like planning this house, like I would go to these
You were
meetings
letting
with
me
my
make
bag
all
of
the
pretzels
decisions.
and I'd be like, I don't care. I don't care. Just finish it. Just get it done. Like, 'cause I was nauseous, like crazy. It was awful.
So as your business was growing and we got in this house, Jackson comes along, right? But very quickly we realized what?
Yeah, we couldn't pay the bills because we could,
there wasn't a lot of joy after that, right? We were classically house poor.
Yeah.
And
which you would think would not be the case because he was a doctor of physical therapy. I was a speech pathologist, 2 clinical jobs, both making almost 6 figures.
I think at that time I was kind of closing in on 6 figures if I wasn't there already.
I was probably like at 80, not 80, right?
Yeah, like you were kicking butt too. Like very good
jobs. Yeah. However, we had crazy school loans, right? Because when you go to school that long, you don't just walk out. Like they have you by the balls for 20 years.
$1,200 a month was my my student loan.
Which is basically was half of a biweekly, a biweekly. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Consumed a lot.
It was a lot. And so, I remember not too long after that, we were standing in the driveway and Randy was like, I think we have to sell this house. And I was like, we are not selling this house. This is the house that I wanted to raise our kids in. And so I was like, no, and things will change. And
I'll never forget the conversation because it's such a poignant part of who we are and what's kind of led us today. And I've always kind of seen my role as like the protector, so to speak, of the family. And, I mostly do the bills and things like that. So I'm like, look, we're never going to get ahead. I had this entire kind of plan talk to deliver because I knew it was going to be hard, but I believed strongly in what I was saying. And I said, look, we're never going to get ahead financially. We need to do things a little differently. The best move that we can make, downsize, let's get out of this house. Let's take the emotional attachment away from it and really do things smartly financially to get ahead. Our future selves will thank us. And, I had this great delivery and I'll never forget. Jenn looked at me and she just put her hand on my chest and she said, wait, I'm kind of breaking into this new genre called Boudoir. And
is that what you said?
I had no idea what it was at first. I thought you misspoke. I didn't know what the hell it was. And she said, I really think that I can grow this business. I want to stay in this house. I'll do whatever it takes to stay in this house. And that was an inflection moment to say, you're either going to hit the gas and make a decision and move forward and do the things necessary to stay relentless. Change and growth do not come from a place of comfort.
That's true.
Not for us, not for anybody. Right. So there's so many people and I talk to, and I get on the call with a lot of folks who are kind of up against that wall, especially, maybe now because the economy's not doing well and it's a little slower, right? And people are kind of against that wall.
Yeah.
Now is the time that big things can happen if you stay relentless and you stay dedicated and you stay driven. And I really think that was a huge moment for us. I don't think if we were comfortable along the way of that process and we're just like, we're fine. We've got some extra money. I think we needed to feel pain, so to speak, to grow. And it was necessary
for growth. For sure. And, I was watching, I was listening to a podcast from one of my friends that one of my friends had done this morning when I was waking up. And she was saying that you do not have to push yourself out of your comfort zone to grow. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I disagree. I do. I disagree with that.
Disagree with that too.
I feel like there has to be some discomfort in order to reach growth. And otherwise, if you're comfortable, why would you ever decide to change? Right.
What's the one thing I say to our kids all the time?
We say a lot of things to the kids.
Well, I don't know. Things that don't involve F-bombs or anything.
Hey, we do that often. Come on. We're live on a podcast.
Whenever there's frustration about something, right? First of all, I always tell this to people. Whenever you're starting out something new, you're trying anything new, and it doesn't matter what it is, something so simple or something very complex. our egos sometimes get in the way to think that we're going to be experts at doing it right away. And we don't give ourselves enough grace to say, I'm going to fail. I'm going to not be perfect at it. We've got to value progress over perfection with what we do. And with the kids, when they're, doing some new math things or whatever, and they get frustrated, I always say, frustration is a sign of learning. When you're frustrated, it means you're learning, and learning is a good thing. So frustration is a good thing. And our son can literally repeat that to me now, and he hates it. But I hope at some point he realizes what I'm trying to get at, that the frustration, pushing yourself out of the comfort zone is necessary. The other thing I always say is I'm never afraid to suck at something new. And I think that you need to embrace that to really grow.
And, it's still happening where we are in moments of discomfort and we're growing. And it just happened recently. We probably won't talk about that, but it did just happen recently where we had an uncomfortable situation and we both did a lot of growing from that. So I think that is the key is when you feel that discomfort, it might be telling you it's time for growth. Whatever the discomfort is, whether it's with a relationship or your job or, and you can grow towards something or you can grow away from it. And I think that you choose which path you go on, luckily for our relationship, we've always grown towards each other, not away. And the businesses too, that's a conscious choice where when things get hard, and they are hard with all the businesses, that we choose to grow towards it and to try to work through it instead of, taking our ball home and taking your bat and going home. I always mess up these
taking the ball and going home. I think one of the things that can help, and one of the things that I do on the daily basis, is when I'm faced with conflict, uncertainty, things that make me feel uncomfortable, I do 3 things in the morning, every single morning. And I start with gratitude, what I'm grateful for. The second thing I think about is, how can I help somebody else? What can I do today, the best version of myself, that makes somebody else benefit from my presence in the world, right? And that's how I've always assigned value, is I love helping people. So to me, that is a meaningful purpose to my life, is helping other people. So, gratitude, helping others. And then I do something to help myself, right? What's the best version that myself can do today to help myself? Whether that's I ate a little bit more clean because I wanted to clean that up, if I worked out, if I listened to a podcast, read a book, took action on something that I've been dragging my feet on. I think that's important to have your daily priming ideations, is what I call that, just to set the tone. Because what happens when you're in conflict is you wake up and it's all you can think about, that dreadful thing hanging over your head. Instead of starting from a place that is going to bring you down immediately, try to prime yourself to start from a place that's going to lift you up and help you stay on the path of your meaningful purpose. So if you're struggling, those are some quick things that I do.
I like that. That was really,
it's on the board. It's right in front of me on my whiteboard.
I like it
every single day.
Yeah, I would show, but the rest of the room is kind of a mess.
Yeah.
The office
needs cleaned up.
It needs cleaned a little bit. I think this was a good starter podcast.
Yeah, sure.
I think do you want to keep going? I think this was good for today.
Yeah,
we should keep, because we'll do another one.
Oh, great.
You're gonna keep coming on these with me.
Talk about pushing your comfort zone. Right?
I know. He was like, "Wait, are we gonna be live in the group?" I was like, "Yeah."
She goes, "We're gonna record a podcast." I'm like, "Great, okay." And then she hits the live on. I was like, "Oh, we're doing this live. Okay, great. This is Saturday Night Live for me."
By the way, the sun just came out and it's super overexposed right now, and the camera's on the other side, so I can't change the settings. So don't judge how
dare you.
I know. Well, the podcast listeners don't know this, but the people that are seeing live are probably she's a photographer. Why is it overexposed?
So if y'all found this helpful, if you would want to hear more about life wisdom, the interactions. I think a lot of people choose to work together, whether that's with a partner, a spouse, somebody close to them. Maybe it's a relative or a friend. You get together and you work in a business. There is an art and a challenge to being both in a relationship and being in businesses together. And I think that's what we do quite well, because we often will take off our relationship hats and put on our business hats and have kind of this business conversations, these meetings. But the other thing that we don't do is we don't like massively separate this life work balance thing, right?
I think it's impossible, because I think some people do that or try to do it.
I just think it's possible. What works for us, and we teach the kids this, is that the businesses sustain our lives and we sustain the businesses. It's an ecosystem that is wholly encompassing, and we try to stay true to that. Now, there are absolutely times where we disconnect because we have to, and that's valuable. But like we also understand that these are things that need attention, just like a child, just like a relationship. And those are the things that sustain us. This is the path of the entrepreneur life that we've chosen. And, coming from working in operations and doing all those things, I wouldn't have this any other way. It's hugely rewarding. And I'm just so thankful that we're here. And I would love to continue this more if people want to hear more of the story.
With me.
Well, yeah, I mean, like on the podcast, shout out. Terrible.
Sorry, I was zoning out a little bit because I was thinking, should I get up and close these blinds, which I should have thought about before.
Just let me come on the podcast more. I'll really tell you some Jenn stories, and really, that'll be.
I don't think they need any Jenn stories. That I have Randy stories.
You put me in front of a mic, and I will tell some Jenn stories.
I have Randy stories that I could tell. Actually, I don't know. Well, I do, but they're not necessarily appropriate for a podcast.
It's true.
Because he was, always the wild and crazy. Like you were always the wild.
Still him.
I know.
That hasn't changed.
I always say like people like me that like they will love him because he's so much cooler than I am, like in all things.
I like Russell has pen and pad to take notes on stories.
I mean, there's lots of stories that he has for sure.
Well, I just think sometimes
22 years together. I mean, we have been together longer than we've been apart.
Yeah, it's crazy
at this point.
And
I need a tissue. Can you carry the podcast for a minute?
Oh my goodness, yeah, I can do that.
I know. Okay, I'll be right back. Sorry, I have like a cold thing going on, guys. And I'm also going to
hear all about it. We'll hear all about the cold. She's going to close the blinds now.
The whole time was how like the camera keeps going like overexposed and like it's behind.
It's not any better now, but wait, no, it's better. Never mind. So yeah, if you want to put in the comments what you'd like to see, what you would like to talk about, Jenn and I are real people, right? This is day in and day out. We have these conversations about how to, be the best versions of ourselves, how to make sure that we're doing the right thing in the businesses, how we raise and teach our kids to be a part of that as well.
So much better.
And, we're happy to share and to help people. And especially if you identify with any portions of our story, if you're in kind of like some of those evolutions yourself and where you're kind of stuck and need to change, need to grow, we've been there and we continue to be there and continue to recognize that this is a messy process, but we keep falling forward is something I like to say. Like if you're going to fall forward.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I mentioned this at the start of the podcast, but since we're kind of wrapping it up now, I want to mention it again. We started an email for submissions. Like if you have questions or client stories or things like that, thrcpodcast@gmail.com. We'll collect them. Maybe we'll do like a listener's tale or something. Ooh, let's have people send in their should we do like client horror stories? Like submissions for client horror stories. And then we can like read them online, like as a podcast.
We could do like a dramatic reading of it.
A dramatic reading. Let's do that.
Fireside chat of a dramatic reading.
I should have Nikki join for like one or two of those too, because Nikki would be hilarious. By the way, we have a ton of podcasts that we're streaming and we're doing this week. So I'm excited. Nikki's coming on tomorrow.
Sweet.
Yep. Oh, and I have a big announcement tomorrow. With a new discount code for all of our followers here, which I'm super excited about. So yeah, Randy's definitely going to be coming on more, and we'll talk more about like this behind the scenes stuff, like how we make everything work with our lives and the businesses. Because I mean, this year, the studio is going to do really well. I mean, it does really well every year, but this year
we don't take that for granted. We're always hungry. We're always, watching things and having, prudent conversations
and pivoting
when necessary.
Like this year,
getting ahead of it.
Absolutely.
Really, I think we pride ourselves. I know I pride myself on trying to be ahead of the curve and seeing what's coming. And as I'm watching the comments, Tony, Holly, Angela, everybody's kind of saying like, if my partner could be more involved, my husband wants to be more involved, those type of things. I wish, I had a partner to do this with all these things, right? Like it was tough for me going from, I'm this operational leader, I'm in charge of 25 clinics. I had 125 plus employees rolling up through me. I had a $8.6 million budget. Like I had to manage all these doctor relationships with orthopedic surgeons, to going from that to leaning into the businesses. And
that's a big change.
For the first few months, I thought, where do I fit? How do I add value? I'm used to being on the offensive side of the ball, driving business, driving revenue, teaching clinicians great things and interacting with doctors, to now I kind of secure the businesses and more on the defensive side of the ball. And that was a tough change for me. And it took me a while to kind of figure out where I fit. I was the rock star, so to speak, in my role. And it was weird to kind of, sit back and watch my rock star wife, do all the things. And I really wanted to understand how best I fit. It took me a while to truly embrace what I needed to do and where I can find value and lean in. But you get there eventually. And if partners, people out there kind of need my advice and like, hey, how can I lean into this? So-and-so is the photographer. I'm thinking about trying to help them with this business. If you want me to give a talk on that end of it, I'm happy to do that, because it is a process.
Well, I definitely think we need to do more podcasts on this. And I also have to say, like, the people that are listening can't see, but you look really hot today.
Thanks.
And like, I'm looking over and I can like see his dimple perfectly.
Love you.
I love you too. But yeah, no, I think we definitely need to like do more podcasts just on that topic, because this is something that like a lot of people, a lot of partners struggle with. Yeah. Like as you grow, your partner really needs to like lean in and support, because
the elephant in the room is it can be intimidating, right? It can be intimidating to feel like the other person might be outgrowing you, or they're having more success. And I felt that. I experienced that, because one of the reasons I left my day job was the company was not doing well financially.
Still not doing well.
I sensed it, and I knew what was coming. I knew I needed an exit plan. And fast forward 3 years from that, their stock is down 95%. They're literally getting ready to sell off of clinics. I knew when it was time to get out. But also, if you go back to then, Jenn was really, really taking off as I was struggling. So that was a hard thing for me to overcome my ego, if I'm very honest, in saying like, okay, Jenn's having way more success than I am right now. How do I really lean into that? What do I need to change about me? How can I embrace this change in my role, this change in my life, my identity, essentially going from senior regional operational VP Randy to now I'm working with my wife. That's a big change, and it required some, self-reflection, self-assessment, and a methodology for me to get there.
I think that we've made some like massive growths too, like just in general regarding that, like both you and I, like, and I think another thing that helps us is we always like check in, like even last night, I was like, what is something I can do to be a better partner? Oh, I just hit the mic. Hopefully that doesn't, it's not really loud.
Do you want to tell them what I said?
No, I don't want to tell them what you said.
Do you want me to tell them?
No, don't tell them what I said. I know you'd like to, but
but I won't.
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna respect your
I
boundaries.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could, but
Yeah.
no, but let's not. I don't think people need to know it.
No.
But now everyone's gonna be really curious.
All right, one funny thing about my wife. And we all have these little things, right, in our relationships, these kind of like little things that can drive the other person a little,
do you know what mine is?
A little crazy.
Do you know what mine is?
Well, hold on. I'm gonna dump on you for a second.
Hey.
It's not a bad thing. It's not terrible, right? But Jen has a wonderful habit of when she eats something, right? Like she hardly ever has time to eat, but when she does, she'll go get like a big plate of food and she'll eat about half of it, and then she'll always leave it out.
Because I don't want to waste it.
No. She'll always leave it out, leaves her cup out, anything. And she'll just leave. Stop. My time to shine.
Go ahead. This is
my time to shine.
This is therapeutic for you to talk to like the massive amount of people that are.
I need everybody to know that you leave your plates of food.
Not all the time.
Hey, if you're explaining, you're losing.
Not all the time. When I'm really busy, I do that. But also,
that is a bold-faced lie in front of all these people.
But also, I don't want to waste the food, so I'll wait and see if he eats it.
Yeah, that's what she says, because she's the master of sales. She'll go, "Oh, Randy, I just thought that you might want the broccoli or the piece of pizza that I've already demolished, and I thought that you might just like want to eat that. So I left it out for you in hopes that, you know, I was really trying to feed you, and you should be grateful that I left."
Sound when I talk? Is that how I sound?
Maybe.
You sound like my brother, like a female version of my brother. Is that how I sound?
No, not at all.
All right.
But like classically, anytime I'm like, "Are you done with this dish? You left it out again." She'll be like, "Yeah, I just wanted to see if you wanted to eat it."
I'm busy. So sometimes like I'll have like exactly 20 minutes to eat, right? And then I just leave it. But anyway, do you know what you do that always like drives you crazy?
Here we go.
Do you know? If you don't know, I'm not going to say it.
I don't fucking know. I have a feeling you're about to tell me.
No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say it like to everybody, because when
Was it like bad?
Well, I mean, no, it's just like, I just have a hard time like listening to it.
Oh, because I chew gum loud?
He like chops it. He chops it.
Dare you? Dare you? Don't get me started on your car.
But yeah, let's not talk about that. All right. I think it's time to wrap this up, because we're like going into places that
Tony says I leave the toothpaste cap off, drives my husband nuts.
I mean, after 22 years together, like these are the times. If this is the worst of our problems.
Holly loves if you're explaining you're losing. Yeah. Holly definitely use that one.
If this is the worst of our problems, though, like I think we're doing okay.
I think we do quite well. Again, I'm always grateful. Like I wouldn't want to be in this journey with anybody else.
Good, you're stuck with me.
I know, same. You can't honestly, like, as big and powerful as Jen is in the photography space. I mean, as she told border agents up in Canada, "I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm here
stop
to make tons of money in this country."
It's time to stop. Please stop. Don't tell it. Sorry, I don't like that. Because it's not what happened.
Yeah, of course.
It's not. Okay, we're wrapping up this podcast because my husband is going down paths that we should not be going down. So, all right.
Remember, you're the one that put me in the seat today.
I did. All right. But I will have him back. We will talk more about how we like figure stuff out as business owners and as partners. Thank you so much for joining me today, husband.
Thank you for having me. If there's one takeaway I could say, give yourself some grace, right? Take a deep breath. Lean in, be relentless. Know that if you're feeling the tough times right now, that is your cue that great things can happen if you stay dedicated to the process. If you need help doing those things, we are absolutely here to help. This is what I see Jen wake up every single day. And before I even like come to in the mornings, she is literally reaching out to people to make sure that you all have what you need. And she's constantly like in communication. This isn't just lip service. This is something that I see happening every single day. I couldn't be prouder of everything that I've seen her accomplish. I'm always happy to have your back because I think you're doing amazing things.
Even when I leave my dishes out.
Even when you leave your dishes out, I think, wow, you probably helped people change the course of things for their family, and that's not lost on me. I'm very grateful that I get to be close to that and be a part of that.
I love you.
Love you too.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up for today. So if you guys have questions, I want you to email them into the podcast, thrcpodcast@gmail.com. There are a lot, don't laugh at me. There are a lot of people that listen to this podcast that aren't in the Facebook group, or they're just not on Facebook. And I know because they're finding me on Instagram and they're messaging me there. So definitely send us out an email. And in the Facebook group, we are going to put out a call for client horror stories, and we'll do like a listener tale podcast.
I think that could actually be really fun.
I think it could be really fun too. So I think I'm going to start collecting that, and then like maybe we'll do that one together, or maybe I'll do one with Nikki too, because she loves hearing stories.
Oh, she would.
Nikki loves them. All right.
I would love to do a dramatic reading of
dramatic reading. You're good at those. Yeah. You'd be good at those.
I could do that.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. If you have any questions, let us know. You can reach us at thrcpodcast@gmail.com. And until the next time, dream big and hustle harder. Oh my God, I totally messed that up. I need to do it again. Do you want to do it? Dream big, hustle harder. Do you want to do one?
Until next time, high rollers, dream big and hustle hard.
It's harder. Try again.
Fuck. I didn't even know what the tagline was.
Dream big and hustle harder. High rollers.
Until next time, high rollers, dream big and hustle harder.
Oh, that was good.
Like that.
Is that like your podcast voice at the end? I like it.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. All right. See you later, guys. Bye. Bye.